Welcome back to the YouTube channel for the New England Player. I am your host and founder, Matthew Andrews. So in this video, we are delighted to bring you another interview here on the New England Players YouTube channel. And in this video, we sit down and have a wonderful conversation with the golf course photographer, Patrick Koenig. Patrick is perhaps one of the most prolific and well-known golf course photographers in the business today. And our primary discussion point for this interview is we discuss his incredible contributions to the Back Nine Press golf book, The Golf Courses of New England, which provides a wonderful overview of some of the key golf courses that you'll find in the New England region today and those that most substantially define it. We discuss the origins of the project, some of the golf courses that he loved the most in his journey in putting this book together. And then we also discuss his incredible accomplishment of playing 580 golf courses in a single calendar year, which up until very recently was the world record for that particular feat. So as all of our interviews, we hope you enjoy the conversation that we had here in this video. And as always, please be sure to like the video, comment below on what you think. And as always, please be sure to subscribe to the channel to make sure that you don't miss any of our other interviews or any of our content that we'll have coming forward from here. All right, thanks very much. And let's get into the conversation with Patrick. All right, Patrick. Well, thank you so much for being here today on the New England Player YouTube channel. And really excited to have you on to talk about just anything and everything golf photography and golf in New England. So welcome. Thanks for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. There's nothing I'd rather talk about than golf in New England. I mean, the U.S. Open is in New York this week, and I'm looking at this list here of the courses that we profiled in New England, and I'm thinking maybe they should have had the U.S. Open in one of these places, but I guess Shinnecock will have to do for this week.
Yeah, I suppose so, right? Very good, very good. Yeah, excellent. So, really, I think the main thing that we'll probably be discussing today is the book, The Golf Courses in New England, from the wonderful folks at Back Nine Press. I've got my copy
There
right here, a signed copy, no less.
Yeah.
So really excited to talk with you about this book. I mean, it's just absolutely fantastic. The the images that you captured of the regions, courses that really kind of define it. And so we'll talk about that certainly. I'd love to talk to you about just sort of your general impressions of the golf scene in New England. What do you think makes it such a special area of the country? And I think it's just awesome too that from what I remember reading, that I think this is your first set of published photos in like a book form. So again, just it's such an honor for us New Englanders to, I think, have that kind of be the case and just have your stuff on display in a book form and have New England be like that first one. So that's just so fantastic. So before we kind of get into the good stuff, maybe we'd just love to learn a bit about yourself. Where are you from originally, how you got into the game, and how you ultimately, became a golf course photographer and what you love about it so much.
Well, that's a long story. I think my second published book is that it answers every one of those questions in depth, which is, I like to think I'm a man of the people. I'm very much just, I grew up as a kid. I was a muni golfer. I mean, I remember my first golf course club membership and my only club membership to this point in time, was a $90 fee. And I had to mow 10 lawns or 9 lawns. They got $10 a lawn. Yeah. So it was 9 lawns, $10 a lawn, in Fort Wayne, Indiana. A place called Arlington Park Golf Course. No bunkers. It had some creeks, all circular greens. And I thought it was like the greatest place in the world. And so I would beg for the grass to start growing in like March and April. And I'm sure my neighbors let me mow their lawns when it didn't need to be mowed because I was so persistent. I just needed to get to that $90. And then I had unlimited ability to just go and play golf. And so I'd walk 72 holes a day, and I just thought this place was the greatest thing in the world. And if you go back to Arlington Park, of course, now you'd be like, it's definitively not the greatest golf course in the world. But that I contribute a lot to, like, how much I love getting to explore the world's greatest golf courses. So if I fall in love with that place, you're certainly going to love Myopia Hunt Club. So and just the gratefulness that I have for the places that I get to see today really starts with the ability just to love any golf course. There's something special about a hole in the ground that you get to hit a ball into. I don't know what that is, that just speaks to me on like the most basic human level, but obviously I'm not alone. A lot of people love golf courses. So that's kind of where I started from. I take pictures, and I thought those were cool. And fast forward a bit, I'm just a normal guy spending a lot of my disposable income on golf trips, and I'm taking photos as maybe like a hobbyist. I had a decent little like point and shoot camera, but it was like, and I stored all my photos by folders, and I had all these sort of like, it's like my collection of golf courses digitally. Instagram comes around. I said, this is the place where I'm going to share my golf course photos on Instagram. Most people think Instagram now, they think of this monster thing, but this was like back when Instagram did not have an algorithm. It was like you just followed your friends. I was living in San Francisco at the time, so like I had friends that were some of the first employees, and Twitter as well. So anyway, so I got kind of a head start, right? So I started posting stuff on Instagram, started getting a following, and eventually people started like, hey, can I buy this? Can you come do a shoot at our place? And at the time I was kind of like, most people was like, the opportunity was much bigger than my skill set. And I was like, and I kind of knew it. It was overwhelming to do that. And so I said, I'm just going to become, what does it take to become the very best golf course photographer in the world? So you start digging into this world, you start digging into photography. You're like, well, there's a lot I don't know. There's a lot to know. There's other people that are doing this very well. How do I get that? And unfortunately, you can study their work. It's not like you have to dig too hard to find. You can look. This guy is charging a premium. He's doing this for a living. Here's what his work looks like. And I was like, well, I got that. I can do this. I can, some of the stuff maybe I didn't know how to do, and I was like, well, I could figure out how to do it. So when you're passionate about something, you can give yourself a really good education. So I did that, and there was kind of a point in my career where I was able to replicate success with these images. Found a formula, found a strategy, kind of built a process around this, and that's where I really started to get referrals. And people were like, Patrick was such a pleasure to work with. You can go on my website and look at all the people saying nice things about me. So I started to get those things, and that's when the business, like anything, you got to put in work, you got to get referrals, you got to do great work, you can't piss people off. And I was like, I didn't want to do any of those things. It's like, I'm just such a, I mostly am just, I got to get all the shots. It's like an intrinsic thing. I'm not doing it to get paid like some other people in other jobs. They're like, I'm here to get paid. It's like, I'm here to get the shots. I'm here to get the very best. I mean, my mission is very pure, and I love to do it. And the luck of that being my job is not lost on me. I know that most people go and do a job and they get paid, and they wouldn't do it if they weren't getting paid. I would do this if I wasn't getting paid. I honestly would. So that's incredibly fortunate. And so that's kind of a quick answer to a long and great story. But that should do for an intro, right?
No, absolutely. Yeah. No, that's awesome too. I definitely, I can definitely feel that coming off of you as well, how much you really enjoy it. And yeah, it's if you just keep at it and produce good stuff and just be a generally good person. It just seems like it generally works out, and it definitely seems like it has for you. And the work you put out is just awesome. So again, that's fantastic, man. Excellent. Yeah. So before we get into the golf photography aspect of your exploration of the New England region, maybe just like generally speaking, like what was your extent of experiences in the New England region, like outside of even just golf or golf photography? Like, yet before you kind of like started this project, had you been to the region much? Any particularly favorite areas that you had coming in?
Yeah, I mean, so before I became a golf course photographer, I think that I took a trip to Boston once just to like see Boston, and we went to I think we went to a Red Sox game, something like that. So I hadn't really, but as a golfer, when I took on this project, it was already I had visited a lot of these places and taken photographs just kind of on my own. I did so in 2018. I quit my job as a sales guy. I was making decent money in sales, but I was like, what if I quit my job? This is part of my journey that I guess I glossed over. And I bought an RV and I drove around the country and just played a bunch of golf. And that, because I was honestly, I was sick of like seeing places in New England that I couldn't play. And I was like, I want to play all of these places. And if I take a trip out there, I get, I got a job. I probably play like 3 rounds of golf. And I was like, that ain't going to cut it. I have at least 50 golf courses I want to see out there. And more. And that's just in a small, dense area of, New England. There's a lot to be seen. So I was like, I got the idea. I'll just get an RV. And if I don't have a job, I can just play and get the photos. And, it was part of my idea to kind of like see if I could wiggle my way into golf and golf course photography, or however it was, I didn't really know at the time. I just knew I had to quit my job and play golf. That was my thing in the year of 2018 is when I did that. So that kind of gave me an exposure. I photographed some of these places with much more of an amateur kind of beginner's eye. And so it, as I came back over the years, I got much better quickly at photography. And my equipment and technology changes with the drone and stuff like that. So I've gotten some of the courses have kind of my entry level photography, which sometimes I look back and it's really good and it's simple and it's pure. It has a certain art to it. And then as I've evolved, it's interesting to see my photography and some of the other courses that I visited later on, how those two differ. In the thing, it's a fantastic book because it really kind of has a lot of all those types of photography from me.
Yeah, no, and I remember I think the introductory sections where you kind of described your part of the project a little bit. And I think you said that the photos were taken, I think it was like from a 7 or 8 year span as far as like time frame. Yeah.
Yeah. So that would kind of be from the 2018 when I first visited, a place like I'm looking at here, like Lake Sunapee or Winnipesaukee, which were great. But then then once we kind of got the idea that, hey, we're going to do this book, and I already had this kind of existing library. What do we need to fill in? And it was, it was places. I mean, I went back and I even did like a full day photo shoot at Farm Neck, which is a fantastic place out there on Nantucket. I get Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket confused sometimes, but that was just a gorgeous place, right? And so I had 3 to 4 days of just hunting down the light, checking the angles, and so those photos I really loved. But so it was over a course of time, and some courses got more attention than others, just because that's kind of the way the cookie crumbled. Nothing in particular, but it was good to go back with like a list of all these places, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna go see all the spots. And Jim, the publisher, did the words for the book, and he grew up there, so this was a very much a passion project, and he knows the course as well. And this was fun for both of us to do. We really loved going through these photos, talking about the courses, kind of laying it all out. And it's fun to just even to look. I've got the list next to me right now, and I'm just looking at it. It's like I kind of want to talk about every single one of these golf courses in depth, because like they're you could do a podcast on Myopia Hunt Club. You could talk about. I mean, I have a book about Boston Golf Club. These places are, and even TPC Boston is like one of those spots. So like it does become, for people that love golf courses, it becomes kind of like a greatest hits sort of conversation, because there are just so many golf courses so densely packed into New England. And they all kind of share an old soul too. Like the older courses tend to be a little bit more interesting. You can feel the history, the tradition. There's something about a golf course that's been around for 100 years versus one that was built in the 90s. You can just tell it. You can step out right away. You can say, this thing's been here forever. It hasn't. And that's kind of cool. You've got a mix of these courses in this list too. They're not all old time stuff, but a lot of them are old school and awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's actually a course not far from me. I'm in the North Shore of Massachusetts, and it's a par 65, and like you got half the holes on the front 9 are par 3s, but like the way that the course flows, how small the greens are, the shelves and the punch bowl nature of some of them, it's like kind of like you just described. It's like I can't imagine that this course has really changed all that much since its first initial inception. That's like kind of like you said. I think that's one of the things that I just love about New England golf, is that it's that sort of a lot of times that unchanged, just naturalistic way that so many of the courses play, just given their age and the land that they occupy.
Yeah. It sounded like you were talking about Marion, not the Marion in Pennsylvania, but for those that know, there's this little course. Everybody knows Catanza. It's obviously on the cover of the book. But if you go down the road, like maybe like 2 miles or something, there's this kind of like wonky, weird place called Marion, with Marion, that has that same sort of feel. Like, like they haven't touched this place or like thought to mess with it, but it's got a couple there's like an Alps type hole, and there's some old school like rock walls, and there's just it's just weird and it's awesome. And I'm like, this place has got it. That's the sort of vibe. Reminds me of, even the place where I grew up. It was like this little weird 9-hole thing jammed into there. It's built in the 90s, but without consideration for a lot of the things that architects today really pay a lot of attention to. That charm is cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. Now, you mentioned James. Forgive me if I pronounce his last name incorrectly. First, is it Sitar? Is it how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, you're the photographer on the book, and then you've got James just writing the profiles of the courses and some of the other aspects. And the other thing I also love about the book too is the fact that you guys highlight some of those key architects. Like, I think a lot of people have certainly heard of Donald Ross, given his sort of national presence with the likes of Pinehurst and some others. But I think it's important for people to realize, like, who Wayne Stiles was, who Jeffrey Cornish was, folks like that. And then you've got, of course, the comments from like Tyler Ray and Brian Silva. All those aspects are just awesome touches in the book throughout as well. But I was curious, like, just on the origins of the project. So, how did you first start kind of collaborating with James Sitar on this effort? And, what were the origins of the project like?
Yeah, it was kind of like, I'm trying to think. I know we were working on my book so then after 2018 and 2023, I set off to set a world record. Most different 18-hole golf courses played in a single year. And so we were like, I was talking with Jim about that. I was like, we would do this and that. And so we're kind of like, documenting, and I'm going through the process of living the book. And so we were kind of working together on that. And then, he had this kind of, it was all through Jim, right? So he was kind of like, what if we were to do this book like this? Like, you've got a lot of these courses already, and so that was just kind of like, there was just an insatiable desire started with Jim to do this, because he's from the area, these places, he grew up walking around, and so he knew a lot of it. So it was kind of, that'd be a question more for kind of like where that brews within it. He can go way back, right? And so then it was an obvious sort of like, let's do this and get rolling with this book, because it was an easier thing to. So he beat me. It took, he wrote the book on this much faster. I always tell people to go, if you want more of the story and the stories from the road, the United States of Golf is that book. It's got some photography in it. It's not quite a coffee table book, but it's got the stories in there. So there was a lot of writing that went into that. But this one just became so obvious that we were like, it's just a great place. We got the photos. He's got the words. It was just kind of like, we got to do this. It was right in front of us. We had to slam dunk it.
Awesome. Oh, very good. And yeah, it's great. We've already talked a lot about like some of the things that make, I think, golf around this part of the country so unique. But like, if you go back to like some of like the first times you came to the region to photograph some of the courses, like being from like a different part of the country, like what were your, like, did you have any initial impressions of what the golf scene here was going to be? And then when you arrived, like what were just some of your initial takeaways when you finally got to see it?
Yeah, it's a good question, because it's like, at the first time I kind of really came and spent time in, the Cape Cod or Boston area, and that sort of got that New England feel. Obviously it goes up into New Hampshire and Vermont. There's all this stuff there. I didn't, I'd seen pictures of the golf courses so I knew of Catanza and that little, that thing there. I knew the country club was going to be cool, I'm trying to think what are some of the other first places that I went. I knew Boston Golf Club. I heard great things about that, but like, places like Dorset Field Club, like I ended up getting out there, and that just kind of blew me away, surprised me a little bit. But there's different areas of the country. So as I'm passing through these areas, you get a sense for the the feel, the golf community, like how nuts these people are about it, like how like golf IQ, how high that is. You know, in places, some places it's more rabid than others. Like Philly is a major pocket. They've obviously, and I think it does tend to stem around like how good are the courses, how good is your infrastructure that you have. And you know, Philly kind of really struck me like, man, these people really they got all sorts of different groups. There's like a sober golfers group. There's guys that can, and everybody I play with is like a +5. Like, how are there this many good players there? And some smaller pockets than others. Like you go to Florida, everybody's just kind of like playing for fun. Their golf IQs are lower, but they have a ton of golf courses, you know, and they have a ton of money. You know, so depending on the places you're at in Florida, some people, you know, there's pockets of a lot of old rich money in Florida. And then as you get into New England, you start to realize there's a lot of golfers, incredibly passionate, love to share, love to show off, very inviting. I feel like you think New England, like people are like these New York assholes or something, and it was just not the case when it comes to the golf scene. I feel like I was kind of positioning myself very well to be received, you know, because I'm like, hey, I'm here to set this world record. I'm exploring on my little in my RV, and so the people that were welcoming me were always very excited to welcome me. So maybe I got a little biased view of it, but I certainly got an open slice, and I was so blown away because I feel like a lot of places were going to be very difficult to get on. I just remember the reception at Boston Golf Club was so warm. Like, come on out, man. Take some photos. This is great. You're here, you know, for the day, and like, you know, you're our guest, and like, let's play some golf. I found that to be, you know, Worcester was the same sort of place. Like, you know, all these places that like are very difficult. And like, oh, Myopia was a tough tee time to get, but then that was like one of the best days of all time. Like, you know, those guys were just kind of, when you're there, you feel very welcomed, and you're amongst people that understand game, appreciate the places they're at and the history that they've got there, more so than other spots. You know, it's a very special. But you do get. I mean, I also got. Now I'm looking at here. I got a couple jabronis. So there's also a little bit of that East Coast attitude sprinkled in there. It honestly, it mostly appears at the public courses.
Sure.
I don't know if we need to share some of these stories because they're pretty ridiculous. But the worst golf experience I had out of my 580 courses played in 2023 did come at Newport Golf Course. I ran into a guy that I think he was just off of his medicine, and he took it out on me and my sister, of all people. My sister was visiting me. She likes to come along. That was a little insane. So I appreciate that, though. I mean, it was a great story, a taste of, hey, not everybody's awesome. And that's, I don't know if that's unique to the Rhode Island state, but I enjoy it. I enjoy a little bit of spice, and the overall feeling of golf in New England. I cannot wait to come back. I can't wait to explore some of the courses that like aren't the big names. You know, I'd love to come back and see Yale that just got a renovation. That was a really cool one. I didn't photograph every single one of these. Like there were a couple that I just didn't get to, but by the time that the published date came around. But like Cape Arundel, oh man, Cape Arundel, like go to Cape. I mean, Jesus, there's a lot of really good golf courses in this book, and the people are resoundingly great that did surround them. It was surprisingly welcome.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it's been interesting for me too. Certainly, like I'm from New Hampshire originally, and then certainly not going to lie. Before I lived in Massachusetts, where I live now, I think it's very easy to have those preconceived notions of perhaps what people from Boston might be like, just
right.
From whatever it might be, just like a joke, a long-standing joke, or a movie, or whatever it might be. But I can definitely echo the same sentiment. I mean, I've played plenty of golf by myself, and I've never had any issues in New England going up to someone and be like, hey, you want to just, if there's a threesome, you want to link up. Yeah. I can definitely echo that as well, even just from being from a northern part of New England versus say like the metropolitan areas and things of that nature. And yeah, I definitely I've been fortunate enough to start playing golf in a lot more different parts of the country. Actually, I just finished playing Wolf Creek out in Nevada, which was
Oh
just
yeah,
wow,
wow.
what an experience that was.
That's a little different than
Um,
New England golf.
oh yeah. I thought I knew elevation changes. I didn't. It's
Yeah, I mean, it's fun to play. I feel like there's a big difference between playing Wolf Creek. If you're playing Wolf Creek every day, you're like, okay, the amusement park ride is over. I just want to go back to playing these courses.
yeah,
What you have in New England is stuff that's timeless and endlessly playable. Over there, it's like kind of like it's close to Las Vegas, and that makes sense because it's like you certainly want to play it, you want to experience it. It's good like once every. I think I played it 3 or 4 times now, and it's kind of lost its luster every time I've played. It's gotten, and I've seen a lot of golf courses, so my IQ kind of goes up, and my knowledge of what's good and stuff kind of goes up. But it's like always fun to hit some of those golf shots, right? You're like
oh
over
yeah,
this hill. They're always stunning views, and like, can you pull this off? Like that's not going to go away. So I think Wolf Creek's a great addition to an American portfolio of golf courses, and it's what makes like New England golf different and exciting because there is all these different options across America. That's funny.
absolutely. Yeah, no, it's one of those things where it's like, I guess it's like just even general travel where being able to go experience something new and see something new is always worthwhile. But there's definitely something about like, just from a golf perspective, it's like when I come back to like, the North Shore Muni scene or something like that, it's always just, it's such a settling feeling to come back.
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
definitely. Very good. Yeah, and so just thinking about some of the courses that you and James profiled in this book. I mean, it's such an exceptional list. I mean, you look at any state, you've got Aquanic in Vermont, you have Bald Peak and the Mount Washington Golf Course in New Hampshire. You mentioned Cape Arundel in Maine. I mean, the list of Massachusetts being just the biggest state for golf in the area, the list is so substantial. But you've got, of course, the famous third green on Catanset as your cover, and then Wannamoisett, Newport, Fairfield. I mean, the list just goes on. Fairfield and Connecticut. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Oh yeah.
And so obviously, all these courses are just so spectacular and have so much to appreciate. But if you kind of like think about like when you started the project and started really getting into this in the landscape here, were there any that like when you left the course more than maybe some of the others that maybe even you had like maybe of what it could be like there just based on some other photos that you'd seen previously? Were there any that you truly walked away from just thinking, I just can't believe how unbelievably spectacular or historic this place is?
Yeah. Eastward Ho is that for sure. Like in the middle of the round, you kind of just like blown. It feels like you're in it's almost like an island or skyline. It's not, but like you have these great views of the Cape. The undulation in the land there is kind of like, I think it's like the middle of the back. There's a couple holes that just go up and down. It's like you're in the sand hills. You're at like Shinnecock Hills. It's got this just timeless sort of thing. Eastward Ho is really good. Eastward Ho blew me away. Kind of another one that I really kind of surprised me. I like left thinking that was awesome. It was like Dedham Links. That's a cool Rainer design out there that like I really didn't expect much from, but that one really same with Myopia. I mean, it's like a lot of the courses you may have heard before. It's for good reason, right? These are spectacular walks. Myopia really left me speechless. Some of the greens and like from the chocolate mounds to the short template out there on this little part, like just spectacularly cool bunkering. Like really no other short template in golf, really. I mean, it's just a spectacular green right there. So there was like from holes that leave you breathless to like entire golf courses that really kind of thrill you. Walking off of let me kind of some other ones here that I'm looking at. Walking off of Yale, the 18th hole at Yale is really fun because everybody, like half the people hate it, half the people love it. I played it before the renovation, but like the Biarritz there, kind of mind-boggling over the thing, and I think it's gotten even more pronounced with Gill's renovation there. I thought it was a great golf course, and so I'd love to go.
It's a striking golf hole for sure. Yeah.
yeah, to see what Gil's done to make it better. Yeah, I mean, yeah. So that was another place that really kind of. I mean, I mentioned uh, Cape Arundel earlier. That's actually, most people don't know this, but that's where the um, George Bush, they were interviewing him, and he was like, "We're gonna." I don't know what he was saying. It was like, "We're gonna bomb these terrorist bastards back to the caves which they came
That's
from."
right.
And then he's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
"Washington Drive." That was out at Cape Arundel. Also, one of the great golf course graveyards in the game. Um, Cape Arundel's got it back in the corner. You kind of got these spooky little old time graves to rival a place called the Creek on Long Island. That one's got such a good golf graveyard. I don't know if you can put that out of the top spot, but Cape Arundel does, maybe. It's in the question. Those are my 1 and 2 golf graveyards. I'm huge. But you also got Monomotonomy's got a golf graveyard there, which is another great rainer, kind of by the
Yeah.
water. Nobody talks about that. That's a cool spot. A couple really good holes. Yeah. That one is. I really love playing there. We mentioned Marion earlier. George Wright is a good one because it's. You walk off of there and be like, it's this place. Let's talk about this. The difference between like the perception that people have of a public golf course versus a private golf course. Could be the exact same thing, exact same golf course. And if they didn't know each one existed, you could have the exact same raters go, and they would rate the public golf course, and then they would rate the private golf course, and if it was the exact same thing, every blade of grass in the same spot, the private course would be at least a full point higher, just because they feel like it's got this, I'm special, like that sort of thing. And that's a shame. It's the way it works. I get it. But like George Wright is 100% every bit as good as it's, Winchester right next door. Same sort of, land and topography. I guess it's got a little less upkeep. The conditions aren't quite as good because of the public resources. That place is bananas good for a Donald Ross that I think it's owned by the city. Amazingly good. I mean, look, I'm just gonna go down every course, and some are obviously a little more surprising than others, but those are my take. Old Sconset, man, I'm coughing. They're so good. Old Sconset on Nantucket. It's got like these old square greens, and it's like I don't even think they water the place. And I was like, this place is sweet. So I'm just like eating that up. I got a couple great photos of Old Sconset. Oh, we haven't even talked about Sankaty Head, which is one of my favorites out there. Holy cow. Sankaty Head's spectacular. That's got to be that one. That's a definite walk off. Oh my gosh. That place is so good. And I got to play it, photograph it in the summer. Perfect time. The greens are rolling fast, so I'm getting all the treats of the ground game, as it should be out there at Sankaty with the lighthouse, one of the great golf lighthouse, one of the great clubhouses, one of the great feelings to be out on Nantucket playing golf. That is, that you feel kind of lucky. You feel like, oh man, we're living amongst presidents. And you go over to Martha's Vineyard, same sort of thing, right? And play behind Obama. He was out there screaming and yelling. I'd never heard Obama like get hot. He like yelled. He's like, "Damn it, Barack!" I'm like, okay, and didn't hear that, and on television when you were president. But dude, a 3-footer, missing a 3-footer for par on the 9th hole. I mean, that'll steam anybody. These are the sort of things that happen out there, and it just it's got this sort of feeling to it, like you're really in a cool place, playing a cool spot. With cool people, and I love going in. Okay, now I want to go back to New England. Let's book a trip, like that sort of thing. A lot of memories at the courses on this list. A lot of good ones.
Very good, very good. Yeah, I got to play. I played George Wright for the first time. What was it, 2 years ago? And I remember just playing the first hole, I was just like, I can't believe this is like a municipal golf course. I mean, I was just blown away by it. And especially, I think when you get to that 5th hole, it's like the big, sweeping one down to the right, or moves down to the right down the hill. Yeah. You got to be real careful, especially if you're hitting driver. Like, it's so easy to go through the fairway there, which I did. Yeah, that was a place I think in recent memory that I was just like, it's one of those ones where I certainly heard plenty about, and when I finally got to play it, I was like, man, this is truly extraordinary.
You could see kind of like the change they would in the clubhouse. It was a private club at one time. I mean, the clubhouse is half used and 100% glorious. I mean, there's like a tiny little pro shop and all these empty rooms that you're like, oh yeah, this place used to be the primetime club, and you can kind of see how it would feel as a private club, because it is one of those great spots. But open to the public, good. I love it. Everybody kind of gets to see what's behind some of these gates and what it looks like, and that's a glowing example for great public golf in America and New England.
Yeah, most certainly. Excellent. Yeah, so one of the things I'd love to actually pick your brain on is I'd love to zoom in maybe a little bit on the northern states in New England. So specifically Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. Because I think when people think about New England golf, I think the lower half of the region is decently well known to a fair amount of folks, and especially when you start getting into people that are really into golf. Like for example, they might be aware of, say, the Northeast Amateur at Wannamoysit, or the fact that Newport maybe hosted the first U.S. Open, and even was it 3 or 4 years ago hosted like the senior U.S. Open.
Yeah, there was a tournament there.
Yeah, and then you think about Connecticut. Connecticut's on the map every year in the PGA Tour with the TPC River Highlands and the Travelers, and then I think you think about like the Cape, a lot of areas, Greater Boston. You think about the U.S. Opens that have been held at the Country Club, and then again, not really anymore, but the PGA Tour being at TPC Boston. I think if you were to try to interview like the greater golf enthusiast population, I think the southern part of New England, people have some association with it, but they don't. I would say that a lot of people maybe not. They don't quite realize how special northern New England is too. Like for example, we've already talked about Cape Arundel, but just the fact that that's where the Bushes have played, and how just unbelievable the greens that Walter Travis had designed there are. Thinking about like places like Mount Washington Golf Course, where the views are just unbelievably spectacular, or places like Bald Peak that even Donald Ross enthusiasts might not be aware exists. And then you get into Vermont. You talked about Dorset Field, which I believe I think it's the longest continuously played golf course is what the stat is. And then thinking about just like Aquanic, where you can tell I'm getting really passionate about this, but you think about like Aquanic, where I don't, obviously I think people would probably know that Ouimet won the U.S. Open at the Country Club, but they probably maybe not realize that the next year at Aquanic in Vermont is where he won his first United States Amateur. And I think he's been quoted as saying that was perhaps even more special to him than winning the U.S. Open at Brookline. So when you think about like just all that history and the landscape in northern New England, what are some of the things that, like, when you explored like those states, that you realize, man, there's just, this is such, equally as southern New England is just such an extraordinary place for golf, and people just simply don't realize it.
Yeah, I feel like it's a little bit more adventurous out there. You get a little bit more into, it feels like a little bit more into nature. You're outside of the populated areas, and you're into like a little, like, I mean, when I'm looking here, we got Sunday River, Sugarloaf, and Belgrade Lakes, is kind of talking up into like Maine there. Those, I mean, like Sunday River was a fantastic, I mean, it's all, there's like no homes. It's just kind of like some great elevation. Sugarloaf, I think, was like people have seen this place in the fall, undoubtedly, because there's the photos out there, like just the trees and stuff like that. A couple of elevations. That place, when it opened, I think it was like the longest, hardest golf course. It had like the highest slope rating, or the highest rating of any golf course, and they had to like change it. They're like, hey man, you guys can't be the hardest, be 80. You got to do something, cut these trees back or something. I think that was Sugarloaf. And Belgrade Lake's another one of those kind of playing through this just rocky forests, kind of out on almost a peninsula sort of thing. It definitely feels like you're more into like, oh man, I'm seeing some spots most people don't get to see. I'm getting out into, away from buildings and stuff, and I'm really kind of adventuring into, and I think that's true, because most people are not going there. So like, to me, that's just as exciting, maybe even more exciting than, staying right around the city center and go and play in a private club. Sure, great, some of the history here, but get in the car and drive, go see some spots. You won't be disappointed, not in that area.
Awesome. Yeah. And I think about places like Bald Peak is actually located more or less where I'm from, kind of in that Lakes region of New Hampshire type area. Yeah. And I mean, just seeing like some of the holes that you can experience there, like the par 3 volcano hole that's present there. And I'm one of the places that I'm really excited to go see very soon coming up here is Aquanic for the Vermont Amateur. They're bringing it back there this year. And I mean, you just look at the history of that place. I mean, Walter Travis designed. I think Abraham Lincoln's son was the president of it. I mean, it's just extraordinary the amount of golf history that you have in that part of the nation, and it kind of flies under the radar, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, Aquanic does. I think I was on my radar, certainly. It was not one that I got to play and photograph. So there's a couple in here. I'm like, oh man, that was not one that I got to. We pulled some photos from, I think, another photographer or whatever, and we can not include it. But yeah, so I'm like, oh, there's a handful in here that I'm like, oh man, I need to go back and see it and experience it, because there's still, no matter how much golf you've seen, there's always more golf to be played, new courses to be seen, and that's part of the joy of it, is that we can all do this exploration until we're dead and gone, and we'll die with a bucket list, which is great, because that means it's a lifelong pursuit, and really the pursuit is the joy. Right. So if it was all over, then you'd just be over and you'd be like, this sucks at all the places I've seen. That ain't going to happen with golf courses. Not for any of us. We're, you couldn't play them all. If you played 2 a day, starting the day you were born, you wouldn't get through them. And nobody's doing that. So it's great. There's, and the New England place is one of the best places to explore. So.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree. Yeah, couldn't agree with you more, really. Actually, so kind of following up on some of the things that you mentioned there. So, certainly the list of courses that you and James have here in this book is I think so reflective of the region. And just if anybody is looking to understand what the region's like for golf, whether you're not from here in this area of the country, or you are and you think you know the landscape, I mean, just, you got to get the book. It's such a wonderful profile of the region. But I was curious, I think there's about 70, a little bit more than 70 courses in the book that are profiled. I was curious, like, if you guys were to do even like a second edition and maybe include like a handful more, or even just on your own personal level, some of the ones that maybe that were potentially on your list but didn't make the cut. Maybe there's some honorable mentions in there, or ones that even you personally are aware of and really want to see, like on your next go around it here in this part of the country. Are there any that come to mind? And it could be in any of the 6 states here in the region.
Yeah, I mean, it's I think we did a pretty good job of like putting the ones we wanted to talk about into there. Nothing really pops in my mind, because it's like there's such a list of stuff, and I'm kind of like, oh, I didn't even get to see this one or that one. So, but that's the thing about like a lot of the stuff. But no, with this book, it's like if we wrote it. So if there was like one that I was like, I really like this, or I got this course is cool, let's profile it. That was the cool thing about writing your own book, is like we just put everything in there. There wasn't like, oh, we had to leave this one out. I was like, no, we just put them all in. so that was kind of the fun thing. But it's also like, you say that question, I was like, I'm sure there's stuff that I could have explored, we could have added. Like I could take another trip to the area, start rooting around at some other courses, and be like, here's 10 more, let's write another book. So you could certainly do that. What we've done is instead of just hammering the bejeez out of the New England, we wrote a book called The Golf Courses of Long Island after this, which obviously this week is the focus. You guys might lose to The Golf Courses of Long Island. Long Island, it's really dense. It's really dense. So, as an explorer, you really do a good job here, and then you go and see some other places that you're like, oh, I need to see this or this or this, and then maybe you come back and you're like, oh, kind of once you've had some more, and you come back and explore it again. So you never know, it might come back around. Not too many errors. You always, like, when you write these books, you're like, oh, we gotta got an error that we got to fix. So like a second version, you'd fix it or something like that. So no plans to go back and dig down deeper, which you could just keep digging and digging, writing book after book. I think and it becomes like diminishing returns. Like guys like you and me would be like, great. but the general public's like, we were good with this list. It already had a bunch of courses I hadn't heard of. We didn't get 50 courses I'd never heard of. So there's kind of that sweet spot when you're creating a book. You want to make sure it has an appeal that somebody's gonna. It's the reason we put Catanzit on the front, because everybody's like, wow, that's a cool hole. It's like a sand island green by the ocean. Like, whoa, it just kind of catches your eye. And that's the business of publishing as well too. You start getting in the weeds too much, people are like, what? Your audience size shrinks and the profitability of a book becomes less. So Shinnecock Hills this week, with all the golf courses of Long Island, selling very well. People are very excited to grab that book, because it's the same sort of profile of other. There's so much golf in the United States. It's overwhelming. Fortunately, I've done a pretty good job. I don't know if anybody knows golf in the United States as well as I do. I don't think I don't know who's played more golf courses in the United States than I have. I don't think anybody. I know a lot of people go through the top 100 and then stop doing. I'm exploring through the top 1,000. That's a dense portfolio of stuff that I've seen. And so without a doubt, I can tell you one of the, people that what's the best place to play golf in the United States? I mean, it's like, I say Long Island wins, New England, kind of depending on the scope and the size of it. New England's in there as well. Chicago's a great place to play golf. You've got your Palm Springs and your Florida type golf, which are almost different kinds of golf, or Scottsdale. There's all these just different spots. But like in terms of the stuff that I really love, it comes down to it's that East Coast sort of thing. It's Boston and New York, and then Chicago has kind of have the best historic, grandest places to play if you can get access. That's why I feel like it's golf in America is tricky, because if you don't have connections, you can't see 80% of the courses on that list. That's why you should get the book to kind of open up your eyes to them. But then you can go to Wisconsin and play 80% of the places in Wisconsin are public, so it's a fantastic landscape of golf out there, and New England's, got a great spot at the top of it.
Yeah, no, certainly. I agree. And I think it's been an interesting year with the golf landscape discourse, in the sense that, having, like you mentioned, and everybody certainly knows that at this point when we're recording this, but the US Open's already underway on Long Island at Shinnecock, which is, I think it's usually ranked certainly in the top 5, at least in Golf Digest ranking every year. And then you think about just everything else that's on Long Island, National, Symphonic, Maidstone, just the list goes on and on and on. But it's been interesting to have, I think, the US Open on Long Island this year, and then you had the PGA at Aronimink, because I think that's kind of also kicked off. That kind of seemed like it kicked off a discussion of, hey, is Philly the best? Like, you've got Aronimink, you've got Marion, so many more as well. And it's just been interesting to see, like this year, for at least from my observations, seeing, like, I think just given where some of the majors are in the US, it's really kind of, for me, kicked off a fresh conversation almost in a small way of like, hey, what's the best pocket of golf in the US?
Yeah. I mean, if we were to, I had an argument on Twitter about this with other people, and a lot of people don't know. They just don't know. And it's Long Island. The pocket of golf is Long Island. They're not losing. It's so deep. You get the. After I tell people, after you get the golf courses of New England, get the golf courses of Long Island, and you'll see there is a good, solid. Yesterday I did a little reel on the thing, Instagram reel. I pulled out like 30 courses, no problem, and I was like, all those are bangers. Most other places are going to run out of courses. What's the Monterey Peninsula is great, just stacked. It's a dozen. It's 12. That's so it's like if you had twice the volume, you could be in the same conversation as Long Island. Philly goes deep. I think that they're probably a little bit closer, but I think they're still going to lose. Chicago goes deep as well when you really start to look at the private clubs out there. But they're the density is not quite there, and then the greatness. Obviously, New York is just as good as any other place, with Shinnecock leading the way. One of the finest golf courses in the land, one of the hardest. That thing is such a difficult. It's just, I mean, you get worked over. You're happy to be there, but you also kind of were like, maybe you want to play National Golf Links next door. You get a little peek of that, because that one's fun. That's one of my favorite places to go play. And it's just like walking. You can like throw stones and hit these places. Then you go after we're done with National Golf Links. Let's just walk over to Sabonic. Like there's 3, and we can just walk to Southampton. They're just like touching each other. So like bam, that's one of the most insane places of golf in the world. Is there just those 4 courses right there? There's a driving range you can even go to. That's great. There's a couple of I'm just getting into the weeds of Long Island, and it gets bananas pretty quick. And it's the same sort of thing kind of with New England. Long Island's got it like no other.
Yeah. No, I think too, it's like yeah, you mentioned obviously I think to play the places that might be considered like those top tier, I guess it's like any region of the country where you have to have the connection to be able to play it. But one of the things I think that I've grown to really start appreciating about the New England region, I think especially with this project being a key motivator, is you think about like the state tournaments, like either the Opens, even the qualifiers, the amateur tournaments, the mid-ams. You start looking at like some of the schedules. Like I actually did a series of videos earlier this year about just each of the key tournament schedules for each state. So I talked about like the AM, the Women's AM, the Open, and you just go through the list of places that you can and again, the amateur events are just so awesome as well. Like I had the pleasure of going to the Walker Cup last year at Cypress, and I felt like 8-10 feet behind Luke Poulter at one point on the 14th hole of Cypress. I mean, the access that you can get just to see these places, I think at these amateur events, is really spectacular. And it's like, I would say it's like the next best thing to be able to play the place, because there's really usually no ropes. Even just there's not really a lot of people there other than the players and maybe the closest people to those players. But just being able to like have that opportunity in New England where it's just such that small pocket, and literally like in a couple of weeks, you have like, for example, the Vermont AM in the same week as the Mass AM. And so you can literally go see Aquanic one day and head down and see, like Winchester the next day. I mean, that's one of the things I think is just so cool about New England, especially if you start like, there's ways of, if you can't play the places, there's definitely ways that you can see the places.
Yeah.
You can even see just like so many cool places, even in the same week, just by following the amateur events.
Yeah. To those, listening that are like, they're public golfers. I feel like it's not, I get all these complaints about like, they just want to complain that they can't play it. And like, if you tried anything besides complaining about not playing, and most people haven't, it's like, man, if you really want to play this place, it's not that fucking hard to do it. Have you tried writing a sincere letter expressing how much you want to see this place? Like, if you really love golf courses and you want to see this place, like, it'll happen. Trust me, I couldn't be more Joe Public. And I was like, I just want to see these places, and you tried writing a letter to the superintendent every day? Like, the dude will probably relent and say, all right, man, come on out. I know you want to see this place. Like, these places are possible. And sometimes you don't even need to do that. You can just be like, hey, come on out and walk around for the Crump Cup. You can see the very best golf course in the world, Pine Valley, and just walk along it. And like, that ain't, I don't know how much it's not like, I don't even how much your tickets, $35 or something. Very reasonable. So you can see all these places if you really want to. So that always frustrates me when people get all on their high horse that they can't see it. It's like, yeah, you can't just call them up and get a tee time. But it's like, if you love golf courses and you're passionate about it, you play enough golf, you talk to some people, play some courses in the area, you'll find a way out. It's not impossible. Some of them are very difficult. Augusta National might be an exception. That one seems to be nearly, impossible. But there's certainly ways everybody kind of knows, and everybody wants to play their place. That because it's on TV all the time. But like these other kind of lesser known spots, there's ways out there. So no more complaining of people that like, you just they don't want to make the effort. And okay, that's fine. If you don't want to make the effort, maybe you don't deserve to play. a place like that. You're probably not going to appreciate it. But the guys that like love the architecture, love the history, take the time to write the head pro a letter, even if you don't get on, like they kind of remember this sort of thing. Like your passion, you run into somebody to party, or something like this, like it's going to happen for you. It just will. So that's what I say. No more complaining about not being able to play these places.
Good stuff, man. Love it. Love it. Yeah. So I guess maybe the closing topic for you here, just yeah, obviously you mentioned that you currently hold the world record for the most golf courses played in a single calendar year. I mean, it's such a crazy feat to think. What was it? The number? It was a 580. 580 was the number.
580 courses. I actually inspired a kid in the UK to beat me. He did over 600.
Wow.
Which was cool. So I didn't have the record for long, but when looking back, is like I gave him tips. I gave him a sponsor. I was like, "Go, dude! You're gonna have so much fun. You're gonna remember this for the rest of your life." The record is just as much about the experience, the memory, versus like part of this club. I don't think people really care if you currently have the record. Congratulations to Ginger Golf for nobody's going to try it. I don't know if he's got anybody. If you set the record and somebody doesn't really see it right afterwards and decide to do it, it'll just people will forget about it and it'll hang on the wall. So that'll probably he'll be sitting on that number for a long time, because it does require a year and you can't be doing anything else besides playing golf. Most people don't have that, so there's not a lot of people that go after that. But yeah, I set that record 2023, 580 courses in an RV, just cruising around. I played 41 states, 3 countries, and it was just the greatest year of my life. My now wife, my girlfriend at the time, Rachel, came out and supported me through the whole thing, which is unbelievable. I'm gonna have to run in, give her a hug and kiss, thank her for doing that, because she's been incredibly supportive of this golf addiction and passion and profession that I've created for myself. And the people made that year very special, and she's right at the top of that, which was just a cool thing. So that's I talk about the United States of golf. I have 4 books now, and that's the one I poured my heart and soul into. Is the it's my words, my photographs, my stories. There's stories in there are bananas. Anything that was crazy. The story of the jabroni and Newport is in there. There's a lot. If you like golf stories, get that thing, read it up, and I don't hold back.
Awesome. And is that also a Back Nine Press book, or where can people
Back Nine Press? Yeah. 3 of the books that I've done have been with Back Nine Press. Another one's more of it's called Golf Bum with Johnny Vacay, another ultimate coffee table book about that record-setting year. Very much more photo-based. So 2 different types of things. Did 2 books on that tour, the record-setting tour. One very photo-based, great for a coffee table. And the other one, the story of how to set a world record.
Yeah. And was like that when you went into that year, like was it the plan to break the record, or like how did you even start?
I did 2 trips. 2018, I just quit my job and played golf, and I played about 400 courses that year, and I realized the record was 449. So I almost accidentally set a world record. So I was like, oh, if I try, I could easily do this. So I tried, and I still took a week off in the middle to do a Tiger Woods photo shoot. Other than that, I didn't take any days off. But I went for it. 580, beat it by 130 courses, which I thought was pretty good. Looking back, could I have done more? Sure, but at the time, that 580 was a. I'll tell that to people, and they'll be like, I was playing in Medina with some guys the other day, and they were like, they kept bringing it up. They couldn't believe it. I asked some people, they're like, I always ask people what do you think the record was, and they're like, 170. And it sounds like, no, it's more than a course a day. Oh, okay. And it's like unfathomable to some people, but once you get going, it's fun, because one course into the next, just the good times are rolling super fast.
Incredible. Awesome stuff, man. Very good. Yeah. Well, Patrick, this has just been such a wonderful conversation. I think we could certainly extend this to however long we wanted, but I
We
think we
could
should
be a
probably wrap it up here. But
could be a 6
yeah.
hour
Oh yeah.
until our voices, we got to get lunch or something, like a lunch break. We could, we could talk about it forever, which I think speaks to, our passion. Like I have the passion, you obviously share it with me. So it's good to get on here and have a chat. And, I appreciate you, letting the folks know about the book, The Golf Courses of New England, and any of those other ones. You can, feel free to go on a big shopping spree, but get The Golf Courses of New England first, right?
Oh yeah. So again, folks, here it is. Golf Courses in New England, available on Back Nine Press. You've also got the sister book you mentioned, the one for Long Island, which is equally impressive. And then you mentioned a couple others, but like what's your full library at the moment? I don't know how many books you have, but like what are some other books? Like I think you mentioned one other, certainly the about your journeys. Just any other books that you'd like to maybe bring to the forefront here, and if there's a golf course out there looking to maybe have you profile them, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah. I mean, so go into Back Nine Press, my primary publisher, and you can search my name. There's 3 books that will come up. We mentioned them all: United States of Golf, Golf Course of Long Island, Golf Course of New England, and it's called Golf Bum by Johnny Vacay is kind of the other one over there. And I mean, that's my job this day and age. I am going to golf courses and doing photo shoots. And so they can go to my website, send me a message. It's pjkoenig.com, or you can just Google Patrick Koenig golf, and that link will come up. And that's, I love to do it. I'm getting booked up, which is really fun to have a full calendar of exploration. And I'll send me a message. We'll have a conversation. We'll find a way to fit you into the schedule. I'll come get the best golf course photographs of your golf course you've ever had. I say that, kind of silly thing to say, but it's really not, because that's my goal when I go there. And I figured out how to replicate it, and I don't leave until I'm like, these photographs are going to blow the client away. I don't leave until that. I come back if it's just raining. We make it happen. And that's my job, is to share the great golf courses of the world with my audience and anybody that will listen to me. And I feel incredibly privileged to be able to do so. And thanks for giving me a little mic to shout into for the past hour. I appreciate it.
No, I've had a lot of fun talking with you, man. And again, I think I'll speak for all the golf enthusiasts here in New England for you to produce this book. It's just a great, I think, tribute to just how special the golf landscape here is. So certainly can't thank you for that. Again, buy the book, folks. You won't regret it. And if there's ever a time you find yourself in New England, hopefully there's a chance we can meet in person.
Yeah, I would love to do it. Thanks, Matt.
All right, Patrick. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, bye.